Hi, bye. Oh, I'm kidding. Gue, Medawalotio, Ninda Lucy, Suzanne, Waldasi, Bejijayo, Mi'kma'ki. My name is Suzanne Patles. I'm a member of the Mi'kmaq Warrior Society, and I'd like to welcome you guys all to our territory of Mi'kma'ki. I just came back a couple weeks ago from a cross Canada tour, a so-called Canada tour, where me and my warrior brother Cody went to go talk about our experiences in Elsipogtog and our experiences outside of Elsipogtog. Because a lot of the times people are focusing just on the fight that happened there, where it's a fight against resource extraction and extreme fossil fuel extraction. It's not just SWN, it's Irvin, it's this new pipeline that wants to come through, and it's all of these different resource extraction companies that want to come in, and they want to come and develop our land. They want to rape our mother. They want to fracture her bones. They want to desecrate our spirituality, because our spirituality is embedded into that land and into that water, because we need that water to be able to be who we are. That's the core of our Indianness, is that water. And it's the core of everybody. Without water, there is no life. So when we went across, we got to see firsthand the destruction and the industrial development that is plaguing all across. And the trip not only reawakened me to the struggle, the broad struggle of every other Indigenous and allyship and all across Turtle Island, how much we have in common and how much we have in difference as well. We're very grateful to be in an area where, yes, we were first contact, yet we have minimal development. But the monstrous corporation that we do have, which is Irvin, that company has shown the world how corrupt they could embed themselves into the whole government structure and in the way people live their lives. If you take a look at, and New Brunswick is a prime example of that, if you take a look at how Irvin has taken everything away from us as Indigenous people. Right now, they so-called own all of the Crown land, where they're going to take all of our trees. They have a refinery in a place where we evicted the British from that area in 1779, yet Irvin is still there. And they have their refinery where they're making billions upon billions of dollars off of our resources, off of our land. And they're destroying it. You go to St. John's and you see it's all black. It stinks. It's completely disgusting. And this is where Line 9 is going to meet up. And all across, and Harper, as everybody wants to see him as the evil man, he did say that this pipeline coming through was going to be a nation building. Little did he know he was partially right, that it's building the grassroots movement nation, where we're going to work together and we're going to dispute it. It's joining us. We're building that allyship. We're building that strong force that we need to build. Because going from coast to coast, it wasn't just about telling our story. It was about building that strong movement where we're going to join up. Where if somebody's hurt out on the West Coast, we're feeling it on the East Coast. If we're hurt on the East Coast, we're feeling it all the way across. We're all part of one body, and if you take a piece of that body out, you're going to feel it. So we have to start acting as one body, and we have to start treating this movement and this revolution as if it was alive. If you're going to keep it alive, you have to keep feeding it. You can't just say, okay, well, we're just going to have an action today, and that's good enough. We'll have another action in a couple months' time. That's not good enough, because then you're not keeping it alive. You're not feeding it every day. And as Crystal described, we make sacrifices when we're out on the road. We make sacrifices when we're out on the land. We take away from our families, we take away from our homes, so that we can give to the people, so that we can give to our nations, and we can give to our allies, and that we can give to the world, to show that this is how you do it. This is how we emancipate ourselves from oppression and from destitution and from utter destruction, from this corporate colonialism, because that's what we're all facing. Yeah, we're being colonialized since 1942, when Columbus sailed that damn ocean blue. But that now everybody's being colonialized, corporate colonialism, because when they came, all they saw was resources, and it's what the government continues to see. There is no justice on stolen land. This is not Canada. We're standing in Mi'kma'ki. This is the territory, and this is what we have to start recognizing is the ancestors beneath our feet, and the ancestors in every other territory, and start honoring those ancestors that were there prior to anybody stepping on that land. Start treating the earth as sacred, because our ancestors are lying beneath that soil. Their blood was shed. And they fought for their freedom, the freedom of their children, because they seen this destruction coming. They prepared us. The reason why our ancestors signed pre-Confederation treaties, it wasn't with Canada, it was with the Crown, so that they can come and, visit and stay in the territory under our law. Yet we signed it to be like this. Yet Canada came up and is squishing down upon us and criminalizes us when we try to assert our inherent responsibilities, because it's not a right. They'll have a right to take that away. It's a responsibility. You have a responsibility to the land. You have a responsibility to the water. You have a responsibility to future generations. We cannot continue to live as if though, tomorrow, maybe tomorrow won't come. We have to stop thinking that, if we pray hard enough, we're going to get to heaven. Who cares about heaven when we're living right here, right now? You have to make this place heaven. Why are we worried about trying to, see beyond everything else? We have to worry about right here, right now. We have to worry about our future generations down the line. Because what we do now, it affects them. Because when our ancestors signed those treaties, it affects us today. It affects us in a profound way, where we're still relying on those premises to be able to justify who we are as a people. We know who we are. It's just most people don't, and we have to present that and say, no, we had authority and we still have it. It's just that they're undermining our authority, and when we try to assert our responsibilities, they criminalize us, and which is what's happening right now. Monday we have court. Two of our men, one of them is my spouse. They were incarcerated October 17th, and they've been held since. And they were criminalized for standing up for their people, for standing with one another, for making that stand. And they're criminalized, and they're being called terrorists. I went to BC. That was my first stop. The first thing they said, what does BC have to expect now that you're here helping to plan and strategize because you're a terrorist? What are we to expect? What kind of violence are we going to see? I said, I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you what's going to happen. But what I can tell you is the power is with the people, and it's the people that are going to come together, and they're going to make that fundamental change. During Powershift, when we were in the blockade, I had my friend Caleb. He messaged me and he asked me, what did I want to say to Powershift? And sent a message from me being behind the front lines, and I stated then the same thing I'm going to state right now. In order to change the world, you have to change about how you think about the world. And in order to change it, you have to first start by implementing an idea. You can't just have these ideas stuck inside of your head and think that, it's going to make a difference if I make a Facebook status, or if I go and click like or share. Because it's beyond that. We have a wide spectrum of resistance, and we have to build that resistance culture on where resistance is normalized. In my life, it was normalized because I heard stories. We're oral tradition, so I know stories from thousands of years ago, and I hear that in my life. And my grandfather, my mom didn't go to residential school. She's actually my grandmother, but she raised me. She didn't go to residential school because her father took the gun out and he said, I will shoot you if you try to take my children. And that was normal in my life. That was the kind of stories I heard, which is why I'm able to stand strong and proud and say, no, this is not going to happen in my territory. My children are not going to be destroyed by this kind of development. And we have to learn to normalize this kind of resistance, and not to only normalize the resistance, but also come up with viable solutions, because you have to have that two-way road where you're going to be resistance, but you're going to have those solutions set into place on how we're going to move forward. And you have like I said, the wide spectrum of resistance, where people are ready to die for their people, ready to die, put their lives on the line. People may say that's violent, but you have to respect that, because they're going to do that for you. And then you have the people who are only comfortable with, writing a Facebook status or sharing or liking, but everybody in between, we have to start filling these voids in between. How are we going to do it? Where do you play a role? Are you going to stand there and hold a sign and have it silence you? It's going to become boring. You're going to have to start to move forward, because life is about moving forward. And if you're only stuck liking a Facebook page or liking a status or standing out there with a sign, it's not going to be gratifying to you. You have to figure out what it is that you're good at and how you're going to use that to resist this kind of development. How are you going to use what you're good at to create a better future? What is it that entertains you? How are you going to use that as an act of resistance? How are you going to use that to betterment of the future? We have to start figuring out these ways and create this movement and revolutionize it. Keep it moving, because we have to create that propaganda. We need our artists to revolutionize. We need our singers, everything that there's a wide spectrum of people. Well, everybody has their own role and responsibility. And it's important that we figure out, how are we fitting into this equation? How are we fitting into this web? And how are we going to come together in order to mobilize and to actually create this movement and get it going? Because for far too many years, you'll see First Nations people standing at the front lines with a few allies and supporters, where we're putting our lives on the line, where we're fighting for the land, we're fighting for our trees, we're fighting for the water, we're fighting for our fish. We're trying to stop these mining companies, and it's how we show our love. We're showing our love to all of our people and to everybody else. And a lot of the times we're misunderstood, where people are like, oh, they're just crazy, or what are they thinking? Well, we know that Canada has no authority over our territory. We know that they're stealing our land. We know that they want to trick our chiefs into signing these agreements so that they could take our land and have the oil companies move in. We know that the oil companies went up to our Indian active leaders and told them, sign on to these agreements and we'll give you programs and services. The same thing that they do to the leaders of so-called Canada. They go to them and they say, okay, you manipulate your people and you tell them that if they agree and they vote for you, that you will create them programs and services, because that's what it is, PS, programs and services. If you sign on to this agreement, PS, you get programs and services. So you have to stop with this mentality. Why do we need programs and services? Because we're lazy. We don't bother to do things for one another anymore. We don't bother to go and say, well, we're going to come together and we're going to make a difference and we're going to sit with one another and we're going to have something for the betterment of the people. But no, people are like, well, we need programs and services to do that. We need people hired, and we need people to buy materials and stuff. It's because we're greedy ourselves. We're the problem. We are the problem. And if we don't see ourselves as the problem, then there's something wrong with you, because we continue to feed this beast. And we need to disconnect from that, because people are like, well, you need a job because you need to feed yourself. Well, grow your food, hunt for your food. But sometimes that can't happen because of the destruction. I understand that now from going across. Like places like Amanjiguan, Crystal mentioned that about Line 9. It's not only Line 9 out there. There's 63 industrial areas surrounding that community. And it's devastating. It profoundly changed me in ways that I could never imagine. Seeing that, feeling it, tasting it, my eyes were burning. I couldn't handle it, yet in a way, it became like addicting, where you didn't want to leave because it's just so unbelievable, and that you see all of this firsthand and you're able to see the destruction play out before your eyes, and you're able to see, this is coming to my territory. And I don't want that to come to my territory, and I don't think anybody else wants it to come to their territory. Nobody wants to see this kind of things happen. Nobody wants to see the kind of things that happened in Elsipogtog, where people where we were raided. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. That's in the past. If I were to live that all over again, I'd do it in a heartbeat, because it's important. It reawakened the world. If you think about it, it all happened for a reason, because people reawakened. They seen that it was important, that people were actually willing to put their lives on the line to create change in the world. And that's what it takes. Sometimes people need that, to be awakened, to say, oh, this is important. or to say, oh, what's going on? And a lot of the times people didn't want to see it until they seen cop cars burning. And they're like, oh, look, they're so savage. They start burning cars. Friggin' rights, we're savage. We burn tires on the road. We have to be proud to be savage. And we have to be proud that we want to take back our territories. When I'm out in the street, I'm always talking to people. What tribe are you from? I'll ask anybody, what tribe are you from? Even if they're not from this territory, even if they're not from this land, if they're from overseas. And I would tell them, to recognize what tribe they're from, and I'll tell them what land they're in, and how so-called Canada stole our resources, stole our land. And people are like, you guys want help? Yes, we do want help. We want real allies. We don't want people who are just going to go and say, I support you. Solidarity. Good job. That's not good enough. Get off your ass and get out there and get beat up with us. Like, that's real allyship. And we need to start, making this movement go in a way that it's supposed to, because we're becoming lazy and complacent, and we rely on other people. Like, they'll say, oh no, look, Suzanne's there, she's going to take care of it. No, I have children at home. I have a right to be able to be home with my kids. I have a right to be able to be home with my family. Yet I sacrifice that to reawaken people, to shake them up, to say, you know what, this is important, wake up. Water is sacred, honor it. Our ways, our responsibilities are important. So we have to start embracing it. We have to start reawakening. We have to start looking at the world differently. We have to start revolutionizing. You leave here, you go and you tell 10 people. And you tell them to tell people. Because that's how you create that movement. It's not like pay it forward, 3 people. We're going to the extreme. Go and tell 10, go tell 20. We have to get this moving, because it's not just good enough to sit around and listen to somebody talk, or sit around and talk about how we're going to change it. Get out and do it. Just don't think about it. Just don't talk about it. Actually go out there and do it, because change is not going to happen just by thinking about it. When I went on my journey and I went to go talk to students, and one of the things that I told them was, okay, you're living in theory. Because I was there. I was a student. I was living in theory where, oh, this is all cool, where you're thinking about all these ideas, writing these papers, and, like, this is a way to create change. But it's not going to do anything if you don't start implementing your ideas on the ground. And that's what we decided to do as Warrior Society, was to start implementing those ideas on the ground. And that's what they've been doing for all these years. People are like, oh, who are the Mi'kmaq Warrior Society? They've been around for a long time, since time immemorial. They've been around since 1497 when the ships arrived. They've been around forever. And they were fighting in Big Hole Tract. They were fighting in Elsipogtog before. They were fighting in Burn Church and in Digby and all over the place to protect our responsibilities and to save humanity. Yet nobody wanted to talk about it at that time. Oh, they're terrorists. Oh, they're bad, They just want to see it as that. But it's not the fact. It's the love for our people, and it's the resistance that we have against this illegal entity of corporate Canada, because it's a corporate state. It's not real, it's a fallacy. There's documentation out there that says Canadians are stupid. That they believe that they were ignorant enough to believe that Canada is actually a legal entity, that they are really, going to rule this so-called land where they stole from us. And then they slowly crept across and said, you know what, we're going to take over the rest. And that's what it's all about. It's conquer. Because they were able to divide people up. They were able to separate villages by burning them, by killing people, by doing all of these things to people in order to justify their theft. And this is what they continue to do today. We stand up, they criminalize us to justify their theft. And it's not right, it's wrong. And what we need to do is we need to step away from this system altogether, and we need to develop our own. Never mind what this is going on, because you know what, that's not working. Everybody says, oh, we want democracy. Well, hello, wake up, you're not living in a democratic society. You have to, what's democracy? Start asking yourself that. Start defining these things that you're asking for, and ask yourself, are we living that right now? No, you're not. you're living in a fascist state where people are saying, okay, this is how it's going to be, where these are the rules, we're taking away all of these protections, we're going to stop you from growing your own food, we're going to stop you from being able to do anything you want, so that you're like cattle, where you're just like a farm animal and you're just going to follow in the line. I'm not going to be an animal. I'm not going to be a farm animal. I'd rather be an animal that's in the woods. I'd rather be wild than be a farm animal. When we start to stand up for what's right, is when we start seeing people come together like this, who are interested, who are, wondering, how are we going to do this? What did they do? What created that successful movement where people knew about it, where it reawakened people? Well, you just get off your ass and do it. You just go out there and you present your facts. This is the fact. Water is sacred. These are our territories. Those are the facts. Get out of our land. So, and it's not saying, people like to say, oh, well, that's too harsh, saying get off our land. It's not telling people to get off our land. It's telling these corporations to get off our land. It's telling these so-called governments to get off our land. It has nothing to do with the people. We love people. It's just we don't love the system. It's against the system. And people want to say, oh, well, are you guys anarchists? No, we're not. Because we have our own system. We've had our own system for thousands and thousands of years. Yet people don't want to pay attention to it or don't recognize it. But it's real. And we still continue to live our lives, and we still continue to honor our sacred ways. And it's just, it takes a long time for people to be like, oh, that's what they're doing. And all that is cool to be an Indian. Everybody wants to know, oh, wait, I need to become an Indian, man. But, so it's very interesting to see the dynamics of it all, to see how this movement is revolutionizing, and how to see how it differentiates from coast to coast. You go to BC and they're, what is that? 5? 3. Okay, 3. And so in BC, they're very resistant there. And then you go through the prairies and it starts to die down because of the destruction that's there. Because they have pristine lands in BC where they want to save that, and then you see the utter destruction that creeps through the lands there. And there are pockets of resistance there, but yet people don't want to pay attention because they're blinded by the industry, and they're like, how are we going to change this? It'll be changed because the earth is going to lash back. We're not going to have all of this forever, and this is what we're trying to prepare you for. It isn't about saying, well, we need to get things going. This is not always going to be here. What are you going to do when the lights go out? What are you going to do when the government says, well, we're broke because we gave back everything that we owed? And then they'll say, oh, there's not even enough to pay back. And then we don't even want their money. It's not even about money. It's about life, and it's about sustaining ourselves as a people with one another, because traditionally that's what we did. We sustained one another. We traded with one another. If I was good at something, well, then that's what I was going to share with everybody. If this person was good at that, then they're going to share that with everybody. And eventually you have a community. We're forgetting how to live in a community where we're becoming individualized. And social media is doing that to people, where they're just taking selfies and they're like, oh, this is what life is about. It's about me, 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 me. Creating this greed. And that's not what life is. Life is about looking around you, seeing beyond the horizon, and seeing how many people need your assistance, how many people need your help, and what are you going to do to create that difference. So we need to start implementing our ideas. We need to start creating that shift, because it's what this is, right? Power shift? Well, we're going to have to start shifting things around in order to change the power dynamics of this so-called country, of this so-called Turtle Island. No, not so-called Turtle Island. It is Turtle Island. But so-called United States, we need to start mobilizing and joining our forces. No more colonial borders. No more corporate colonialism. We need to make that stand, and we need to unite from all fronts, from coast to coast, north to south, because all of the Indigenous people, I have sister from Machupe territory in southern Chile, and they're suffering the same things that we're doing. Canadian companies going into their territories to destroy their land, and then they become criminalized by the Chilean government because they're stealing from them. They're stealing their land, and all they want is to live on the land. They want to live in the bush. They want to live with one another, and they're being criminalized for that. And it's the same thing that's happening all around the world. When I attended a North American Indigenous caucus, this is what we brought forward. Myself and my sister, who is on the West Coast Warrior Society, we brought that forward. We need to stop the criminalization of our people when we're asserting our authority over our territories. We need to start a certain self-determination in a meaningful way, not underneath policy, not underneath legislation, not underneath Canada, not underneath the United States, not underneath these state authorities, under the Indigenous people's rule, under the grassroots, like she said, that I told her up there, from the ground up, because that's legal. And it's constitutional under their laws, yet they don't adhere to it. And that's the way we move forward. We need to come from the ground up, where we grab each other's hands and we lift each other up and we say, you know what, you have that power. Stop being disempowered by this system. Stop being disempowered by these things that are thrown at you to tell you that you're worthless and that you're nothing. Because everybody, it doesn't matter how small you are or how little you may feel, you can make a difference and you can create change. You just gotta, grab the courage in order to do it. You need to get out there and put yourself forward. Put yourself forward in a good way, with good intentions. Not with bad intentions, with really sincere intentions that you're going to do this for the people. That you are going to do this not only for the people, but for our creatures that we survive off of these plants that we survive off of the water that we survive off of, everything that connects us together. We need to start connecting ourselves not only with one another, but also with all that sustains us and also with Creator. Because if we don't have that balance, it's not going to work. And we need to start moving forward in that good way. And I want to thank you guys all coming out here to listen to me tonight. And, get up there, stand up, make change, figure out what you're good at, and do it. Because us who are doing it, we get tired. We want to be home with our families. We want to be able to do what we need to do to sustain our lives, to be able to be out there on the land. Instead of going places and to tell people how to do it. Eventually, we would like for everybody to be just doing it instead of being told to do it. So get out there and do it, just like Nike. Nige. Thank